Manchester United. I did agree to go to Manchester United to train. You know, you name every park in Cardiff I've been. I have to hold my hands up. I didn't know, and I have to apologise for it.
This is a Cinema Beats production.
Hello everybody and welcome to Daily Coaching. Daily Coaching are currently hosting a series where we're talking with current professionals and ex-professionals of the game and discussing all about their journeys into the game and also some of their experiences being coached. And I'm absolutely delighted today to announce that we have a legend of the game, Craig Bellamy. Craig Bellamy's played for numerous different clubs across Celtic, Liverpool, Man City, West Ham, Blackburn, Newcastle. The list goes on. And he's also played for Wales numerous times as well. Like I said, a real legend of the game. And we're really excited to have him as part of this conversation today. So, Craig, first of all, welcome to joining us and a big thank you for joining us. And if you can, just kind of start us off. How did you get into football? What was the sort of real spur into getting involved within the game?
It's like my dad was hugely, like, he's a massive football fan, my father. Older brother. And I remember he always says this, he took him to the park, kicking a ball about, no interest whatsoever. But then he took me to the park and ball, then play again. And it was like straight away, even from like the ages of 3, 4, I always responded to the ball.
Yeah.
Which gave him a bit of but then when I got to the age of like 5, 6, my friends would play football outside always, so I sort of caught the bug for that. But my father used to play like parks football.
Okay.
So he would play a lot of, I wouldn't even call it non-league, it was parks football. It was like a very bad standard, but he loved it. And I just used to love going to watch him. You know, you name every park in Cardiff I've been. So while he was playing, I'd be on the board on the sides with other kids from other pairs were playing in the same teams or opposite teams. And that weekend was like live for, you know, even as a kid, freezing cold, rain, I'll be on the side with a ball and just loved that environment, being in the changing room, smelling like DP and DP. And then we'd go to the pub after. And then have to get the bus back home. Sometimes my dad spent all his money. You have to say, you know, if you were under 5, you could get on the bus for free. So I was like 6 years of age, and he was like, no, tell him you're 5, tell him you're 5. Yeah. So, but it was just everything, the weekend, the smell of the grass. I really just caught the bug for it, and it still lives with me now.
Nice. It's interesting you say that as well, because I think that is such a big part of it, that whole sort of experience of, you know, like you said, the watching of the football, so watching that play football, you just having a ball and playing with yourself like on the sideline and getting a chance just to move it around and experience that. Like I said, those memories of, I think everyone who's listening to this will be able to relate to that deep heat smell. I think it's something which never leaves anybody.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think that those are the...
But it was little things like, even when the ball went off the pitch, I'd like share it. And I'd do a few kick-ups or a few like little close controls, right, left. And, you know, like my old man would say after, he goes, oh, I seen that. You know, so as well as the game's going on, he would see me collect the ball, but see 1 or 2 tricks, sort of step over, giving it back to him. And he was clocking it. He was like... and then we went, I remember I was playing in the park, just with my friends and everything like that. And not a scout, but it was with a team called Pentwyn Dynamos, like an area Pentwyn, came over. And he was like asking players to play for his team. And I remember 7 years of age at the time, he was under 10s. And I said, like, can I play for your team? And so he was like, how old are you? And I said, I'm 7, you're too young. So I got to see, because I played with loads of boys who were older than me. My friends were like a year, 2 years older. So they were all going to go and play for a team. And I couldn't play because I was... So I went home and told my father, and I was, you know, I want to play football. I want to play for a team, but they won't let me play because I'm too young. So he said this to me. He goes, well, you go and get a team and I'll coach you.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. And I went and got a team. I knocked on people's doors because I had loads of friends as well and boys who would play. I got a team together at that age, at 7 years of age, got a team and play. And my first game, guess who was against?
Go on.
Pentwyn Dynamis. Yeah, under
The
10
irony.
years of age. Yeah, we went 4-0. I scored all 4 goals, and even that then was like, I'm too young, am I? Yeah, it was. But yeah, it was just that bug, and then I never really looked back from there then.
Nice. And it's interesting you say that as well, because, you know, in this day and age, you know, a lot of people by now at 7 years old, you know, people could have been in teams for 3 or 4 years almost. I mean, you know, they're starting teams younger and younger.
Yeah.
Obviously, clubs are developing these pre-academies now as well, which is, you know, from almost as soon as they can walk. So, yeah, it's interesting that, like I said, then you wasn't even able to get into a team because you was almost deemed as too young. But now, by the age of about 7 or 8, you know, players are having 200 plus games potentially, obviously at grassroots level and small-sided games level. But it's incredible. And again, I think it goes to show, like you said, you just wanted to play and get that exposure of, you know, I want to play football. I like playing football. Let me play, sort of thing. So it's nice to hear that, you know, it was not a struggle you had to go through, but a barrier almost you had to overcome initially because someone's saying, no, you're too young. And then, like you said, you're going out there and proving that you can do it. I just wanted to touch on as well. You said your dad said obviously he'd coach you. How was that experience? Because I find this quite a lot, and I think it's important as well that sometimes our first coaches are not always necessarily coaches of, say, for example, a team. Sometimes it's our social people around us or our peers around us. Because, like you just said, even from watching or getting advice, how was that from getting sort of advice from your dad? And
he was top class.
Yeah.
What I liked, you know, and I do it now, and even when I was at Cardiff, so much as well, was my dad would pick other boys up. You know, if they needed a lift, they were around my house, but he would go and get them. He went above and beyond for other kids who couldn't quite be there, or who didn't have, or their parents. Maybe one of them weren't there, or one or two couldn't really get there due to commitments as well with work. Don't think Monday morning, so I think a few parents didn't quite want to be up in the morning as well. So he was always there, always available, always ready to go and pick someone up and help someone out, to make sure the boys at that young age could get from A to B. And I look back now, you know, it was a big sacrifice from him. But also at the same time, you know, these boys have a lot of respect for my dad.
Yeah.
And I tried to keep that as well. You know, even when I was a kid, I was picking boys up from, you know, from my estate where I grew up from, whose parents couldn't get there. They couldn't get into training. We had issues because I real coached them from young ages because I wanted to see what they were doing. But we had some boys who would come late, and it's not their fault. It's impossible to blame a 7-year-old boy for being late. Had the right equipment, didn't have his boots with him because his parents were in a rush, or they were at his father's the night before and he didn't quite bring him back and didn't bring the equipment. So I'd always had 1 or 2 stuff available, or 1 or 2 stuff just in case boys did come without the equipment because of the circumstances they were living with, that I made simple, but also made him aware that it's okay, it's not a problem. And I learned a lot of those traits off my father, to be honest. His dedication, but also the respect for the boys had for him because he cared. He cared for them. And for me, because he was never one of those parents who was trying to tell you what you've done wrong. Everything was how well you done.
Yeah.
I didn't do something as quite correct as I would like. It was never really, it was like, yeah, you've done the right fender red that time. So next time you need to do this, or maybe try this. It was never put into yeah, you shouldn't have done that, or you shouldn't have done this. It was like, yeah, that was good, but time, because he's seen it, because you've done it to him before, can you try this, or can you try that? Or maybe this is a good idea. So he gave me a real good insight into, yeah, I done it really well. But at the same time, defender switched on to the first because it happened to him before. So next time, I did that cut. And when I did do something, it was always like, oh, did you see what you done then, Arian? And it was those rides home, those drives home with him, I look forward to the most.
Yeah.
You got.
Yeah, no, totally. I think, do you know, it's interesting about you mentioned that. So two things I picked up on. So number one, I think that often, coaches are given the label of a coach, and ideally, the whole thing is around sort of, the technical aspects of the game and improving and developing a player. But I think that often I kind of sometimes refer to coaches as mentors as well, because similar to what you're saying about your dad there, that actually he's instilling so many sort of personal characteristics into yourself, into, like you said, the other people within your team. You're developing technically as well, but at the same time, you're growing as a person. And like you said, you're becoming a better decision maker, whether that's on the pitch or just psychologically thinking about, like you said, the positivity of things. So, right, great, that happened, but why did that happen? And if that happens again, where was that defender? Was that defender too close? Do I need to maybe take a few steps back? And those real intricate details of, what really and truthfully makes a difference between a lot of players, because, some players are really technically gifted, but if they're not going to have the right decisions they have to make on the ball, then in those certain situations or scenarios, they're going to become the players that continuously sort of get unstuck. And then another point you made is,
agree, but also what I liked about him as well, which was great for me, was winning, because we had a very good team.
Yeah.
And then he would be like, second half, go midfield, go set midfield, or go, So I go and play different positions, and try and have a huge impact on the game there. So it was always like they all want to win. As kids, we want to win. So if it was a tight game, I was up front. But when we were winning, it was going. So I'd learn more about the game then as well, about different positions. And as a kid, when you're playing in the park or playing with your friends, you play everywhere.
Yeah, of course.
You play. So I still kept that element, still kept that enjoyment or a different challenge during the game.
Nice. I think that's so important as well, that transition. Like I said, I think, I can remember it back as well when you're a kid playing in the park, like you said, 1 minute you're wanting to score the goals, and all of a sudden your team might concede a penalty. Then you're the goalkeeper for all of 5 seconds trying to save the penalty from the team. And then you're going back out on pitch. And like you said, I think it's important to experience those different positions, because really and truthfully, it's you just being on the ball, regardless of maybe at a young age, you're not understanding as much about the real detail of each position. That might come obviously at a bit of a later stage within foundation phase or early parts of the youth development phase. But it's just you being exposed on the ball in different areas of the pitches, really, whether you're in defensive area, whether you're in midfield area, in the attacking area. And I suppose those elements of, what do I do when I'm on the ball in these areas, and why am I doing it? So yeah, it's interesting that, like you said, there was that transition across. And I thought as well, a point you made so about the opportunities, crucial. I think so many, and listen, I get it why they, a lot of academies want the best players. They want players that are going to be committed. But I totally agree with you. How can you blame a 7-year-old for being late or forgetting their boots and things like that? And I always say that opportunity is one of the key aspects of really becoming, I suppose, professional, and sometimes that isn't even in their control. I mean, like you said, what if their parents don't have access to transport? What if, say, for example, they can't get there because of religious reasons and all sorts of areas. And I think that sometimes this is what we need to almost be a bit more flexible on. And it's great to hear that, like you said, you kind of go out and get these players and bring them along training, because opportunity almost kills so many people's chances of playing football, number one, and becoming a footballer, number two.
It's huge. Like the opportunity, like without sounding, like I knew where I was, and I knew where my ability was even at a young age. So I also understood where I was. Wait there a minute. Frankie, please. So I sort of knew where I was. I stand into boys my age, even in the whole of Cardiff, not just my area, because I was exposed to playing even at young kids. I was exposed to playing against who were older than me, even wherever I played out in the streets. And also when I had the ball, if it was my ball, listen, that ball's going to get taken off you. Someone's going to pick it up and walk away with it. So I had to be prepared to stand my ground as well. So I knew every time I took a ball out, I was up against it. So I grew that, and older boys don't like a young kid running around them, and also they try and kick kick you physically, try and do anything they could to try to, because they don't like being humiliated either. So I grew up with that bit of needle as well. So I grew up with that little bit of roughness because of you're a product of your environment.
Yeah.
But also, I've seen so many talented players. Like one particular, a few years older than me. Honestly, I learned so much off him. He was doing things that, even to this day, his mark on me. I've never been, his body movement, his drop of the shoulder, his step over. He was well ahead of anyone, even to this day. He was doing, but maybe that was because of the age gap, and I was learning the game. I was beyond young at that time. But it's still, even to this day, I know where it was, kit he was wearing, know his name. But he was one of those players, and everyone would be the same. Like, how on earth could he have not made it?
Yeah.
Now, I was good. He was better. But he didn't have parents to be able to take him from A to B.
Yeah.
He didn't have anyone there with him to make sure he was able to. And then he just, when you're not able training, not able to go there, then he became quite lax in that as well. He was, well, no one's there to take me, so I'm not going to training today. And people, but it's not the same as having someone with you, or your parents can be the best people for that, but not quite around as much as what other parents can be. It don't half make a difference.
Yeah.
So, and that was one of the first things, and great that it's here because we do it here. It was like, I don't want a kid not being able to show his ability or show the world his ability because he can't get from A to B. If that is the case, then we've got to be responsible to be able to make sure that we sort all that out. Even if we have a school bus, a bus driver, to dedicate some of the finances to be able to take our players from A to B. And that's something that's done here. It's part of the Purple Talent. We take care of it, but that would have been something that I'd like to see every club. I know it's difficult with resources, but I don't ever want another situation where from a young age isn't able to show the world what he's got because unfortunately due to circumstances he can't get from A to B.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I think as well, especially considering that on the other hand, it can work in the other way. So, I mean, like, you get players who maybe not be as technically good. And, I mean, I've seen it throughout my sort of history and journey that there's players who maybe you wouldn't look at and go, oh, you're going to make it as a player. But because they've had that opportunity and parents will take them, from south of England up to north of England and abroad if they needed to, that because they're getting that more of that exposure and more of that opportunity and, kind of like we spoke about a little bit previously about, being able to actually just play games at the level of obviously the age group that you're at, but be able to just play games against competitive teams. And, it's sad. It's not sad to see because obviously it's great that they're taking the opportunity, but like I say, it's sad to see that, there's so many players that miss out on it. And, it's in any other sort of given job role or, industry, if someone sees somebody with talent, they support them all the way. They really want to bring out that talent and help them along that journey. But it just seems sometimes with football, like you said, and it's tough because of finances and things like that. But there's a lot that sort of miss out on opportunities because of that reason. And ultimately, everyone starts it for the same reason. They love playing the game. So, to kill someone's love for the game by not giving them an opportunity almost, seems more than wrong. So it's a tough one.
No, it is. And you know what it's like as soon as you get into the teenage years as well, then you get other distractions and, life is difficult for any teenager.
Yeah.
But then, and that's when you get tested. That's when, your friends are doing things that you want to be doing. You want to be going at certain places at certain times, but then you've got football, I got training. And the excuse of not being able to get to training can lead a boy and lead his love out of football. Yeah,
no, I totally agree. I think that's where I always sometimes say talent, motivation, opportunity, and that's where I suppose that motivation element comes into. Even for the ones that do get the opportunities, like you said, we're going to a party on the weekend. Do you want to come along? Or football though, should I go? Do you know what? I'll go this one time. then all of a sudden, oh, that was a good night. Oh, do you know what? Next week or party again. So yeah, it then kind of gets the onus on the player.
And if they got a girlfriend, that's
yeah.
it. Yeah,
yeah, that's a
so,
tough one.
Yeah.
But interestingly, so obviously, like I said, you started off this team at under-7, and then obviously you started playing with them, and it's great to see because obviously the motivation from you was I just want to play, and almost a bit to prove wrong to this other team as well, which you came up against first of all, which was like you said, very ironic that you came up against them. But then how did the journey kind of go on from there? And like you said, you knew you had ability and you knew you had something about you, but when did that sort of first get picked up on by like sort of the wider audience, and how did that journey happen?
Well, I got into my junior school team as a first year, so around about the same age then, with boys who were about 11. So it was standards then. So standard 1, standard 4. Standard 1, just a baby in infant school.
Yeah.
And I actually got into the team that was, with the standard 4s, so boys 3 years older than me. They never done that. So I was one of the first ones ever to they put me in. And then at the age of then it was like different district trials and all that. So all schools enter their 1 or 2 best boys from their teams and go there. And I ended up going there really. And in the trials, I got in. And then they found I was. And then I remember then look, we can't put him in. It's not fair on the boys who are at that age. He can play next year again. So, but they did keep me in. Okay. I played 1 or 2 games, and they brought me off. It was I remember I played 1 game with Brecon, and it was I was brilliant. It was and they took me off half time, but said they got to give this boy a chance because he's older. He's at the right age. And then the next year, then the same came up again, and I literally played in a trial for about 5 minutes. They brought me off. Said, look, we don't need to try you in. Yeah. So, and they told everyone in front of everyone that, yeah, he's already in. So that year then, good team, because it was kind of schools and all that then. It's nothing like it is now. It was, the best boys got in.
Yeah.
Not because you have to pay 400 kit and all that. That wasn't the case, which it is now, which is a crying shame. It's actually borderline criminal.
Yeah.
Where you didn't have to pay anything. Best boys played. They were selected all around South Wales. And like I said, that's definitely not the case now, because you could be the best kid now, £400 to pay for your coaching. And don't forget, imagine if you've got twins or it's a big it's a lot of money you've got to put in. You cannot pay to play this game. I'm not having that from a young age. It's not fair on the parents, and it could stop a kid's development. So I played in that. We played D-side in the semi-final. Mike Long was playing for D-side.
Okay.
We lost one. We won there 2-1, went to extra time. Then it was replay again, because no penalties. Extra time, 0-0. Replay again, back at D-side. It ended up. So we lost this in the Welsh, but during that time, that's when clubs start looking.
Yeah.
And I got asked to go to Bristol Rovers with a scout called somebody who's quite a big scout, and sadly he's passed away now. But I went to Bristol Rovers then because they had a big connection, like Tony Pulis. Loads of players from South Wales ended up at Bristol Rovers because the Cardiff City Academy wasn't really up and about. Under 14s, under 15s really wasn't really there. So played there for about a year, 2 years. And then the main Bristol Rovers went to Norwich City. He took 1 or 2 of his scouts from that area with him. Because I was at Bristol, then I got offered to go to Norwich. And then went there, joined the younger age group. So I was there at about 12 years of age, 11, 12 years of age. Called the Canary Ring. Played there. We used to go on tours to Denmark, go on tours to Finland. It was real education. And then I was, honestly, like I had loads of clubs coming for me then. Like Manchester United, I did agree to go to Manchester United to train. I was just about to go on the train, then I didn't want to go. I just come back from Spain with Norwich, with Canadian Rangers again, so we were always on tour every half term and else. And I was like, no, I'm happy. I like it. I like where I am. Yeah. Then Leeds offered my parents money for me to sign Leeds, about 15,000. And I remember listening to the phone call. My mum was like, that's a lot of money. My mum didn't give any football, yeah. Loved the son, but they weren't bothered about football, which is great for me, But my old man was like, no, if that's where he wants to go, that's where he's staying. So, yeah, my mum would have loved the money. But at the same time, my father was like, no, and I was happy. I've got to be honest, I was happy. I was that really catered young players. I was really, really well. I got experience in Europe. So, I went, like, I got to train at Ajax with Norwich. Got to train PSV for a week with Norwich. I played in the Dana Cup in Denmark. I played in a tournament. Where else was there? In Spain, in Valencia. All in a space of, like, you think of about a year to 2 years. I played in about 7-8 different tournaments around Europe.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Got to play like the likes of Valencia, PSV. Got to, even the Scandinavian teams. Got to play a lot of them. So my exposure for a young kid is, and also being able to travel, go on ferries, being able to then travel, because Norwich was 5 hours away as well. Yeah. So living on them sort of become the norm for me. It's not great because you miss a lot of your childhood, but I was doing something I loved. Yeah. And that's where, even now being in Belgium, it's like, it's normal for me. Yeah. It's normal because even when you look through my career, I was always really happy to be on the road. I was happy to live at ease, and because you have one life, and I want to see as much of the world as possible. And I got that experience and probably got that hunger for it from a young age.
Yeah, I think it's important as well to get that experience of, like you said, going and playing in different environments, going to playing in different countries, and just having all, like you said, all the experiences. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some players who just have, one club throughout their whole career, and that's fine for them. But like you just said, you're getting to work under different managers, you're getting to work in different countries, you're getting to learn different languages, you're getting to learn different cultures, you're getting to actually see things as well. Spoke to a player the other week, and they play in America, and they've not played a first team professional game over here in England. They said they've gone over to America, they're playing in front of 80,000 people. It was like, I couldn't buy this experience almost. So I think it's so important to get those different experiences. Yeah. And do you think that then, like you said, that helped you from doing that early on? So say, for example, if you hadn't and you'd always stayed in one environment, do you reckon it would have been a different scenario as life went on, and you may have just been more content with staying in one area?
I don't know. One thing I did know, and I was aware of, is I couldn't stay in Cardiff.
Yeah.
It was not the environment for me, to where I wanted more out of this life.
Yeah.
And I always felt, even when I was wrong, it wasn't me. This is not what I feel like. This is not how I want to live my life. This is not I was meant for something else. And I always felt that even from a young age, I daydreamed quite a lot. And I just felt there was more to have to try and make an impact somewhere along my lifetime. And I felt football was going to give me the opportunity to one, achieve something, or the world that I was meant to be out there to go and see. Yeah. I love the game, and I love it even more now. But it was just the fact of, and I look at a lot of my friends who I was really close to from a young age, and the avenues they chose. It was just not the environment that I was. I would have been a miserable person, and I don't know where I would have been. give me the opportunity to see a different part of life and also myself and make myself happy. So beyond grateful for football for that, but there was no real, I knew from a young age that it wasn't going to be here at home.
Yeah.
Because I just wasn't room for that. Now some people are. Some people, could have a great club on their doorstep and be able to that way. And, have really good people looking out for them. I have really good friends. But it just wasn't there for me, a club that was able to do anything for young players during that time.
Yeah.
They didn't have a policy for that. And there was no one from my area who wanted to play at any high standard of football or even rugby. It was just an area that unfortunately just hasn't been able to produce athletes, which I find incredible because all I ever seen was athletes as a young kid. All I ever seen was top players. But like I said, the environment, when you get to those ages of 13, 14, 15, unfortunately, it was a bit too tempting to drag you into a position that was never going to be or never going to help you to fulfill your dreams.
Yeah, of course. And it's like
so
you said,
then at a young age, give me that. It gave me, I was able to, I was well away from home. I moved to Norwich when I was 15. I moved early because of they wanted to get me there earlier because they knew staying at home wasn't going to help. And it just, I had to finish off at Norwich. And it was difficult the first year. I really felt hard. It was homesick of actually I've left home.
Yeah.
I might not ever be back there. It's a lot for a young boy to take. But, and I also didn't want to grab that at the time. I was looking for ways to just be released because it was hard. What people don't understand with this game is it's a difficult game. The dedication you have to put into being a good player, it's a lot, from what you eat to your timings, to people testing your character, to having to run back, having to tackle. Yeah. This was every day. And the realization of that was, I'm not sure if I'm cut out for this. This is a tougher sport. And I thought the days of just being able to play and take people on and about that, no, this is everything to be a good player. And honestly, for the first year, I fought a battle that, because if I quit or if I broke the rules and I didn't give it my all, then I could blame the coach. I'd go back home and say, oh yeah, the coach was horrible. It was his fault. He was always having a go at me. He was always, and it wasn't, it was me. But they warned me once. Usually you get a second warning, so I tried my hardest for the second warning, thinking hopefully they get rid of me so I can tell everyone I come back home, yeah, it was the coach's fault. I could tell my parents it was their fault. Of course it was. But they cottoned on to that. And I always remember, funny enough, he passed away about 6 weeks ago, a guy called Gordon Bennett, who was the head of development. He was the one from Bristol to Norwich. And I spoke to him must have been about 4 years ago. I said, how did you persevere with me? You knew what I was doing. What persevered with me? And he was like, one, I knew you had talent. And two, I knew what you were doing. I've seen players like you before, after, and he dealt with Adi Akibaye from Hackney and all that. And he's seen every boy going. And he knew what I was doing. The patience to knew that he'd quit, but he wasn't going to let me quit. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Nice. And I think it's so important as well from his perspective, and something which you, again, like I said earlier on, about you take traits from people. Like you said, you took a lot of traits from your dad, and taking traits like that as well. There's a lot of coaches, like in this day and age, you'll quite happily just go, yeah, no, too much trouble, don't want to deal with you, you're not putting the work in, you're not putting the commitment in, goodbye. But to do that is, I think, you can't learn that. That's just a personal trait which someone has a belief in you. And I suppose that spurs you on a little bit, doesn't it? Because if someone has a belief in you and you go, actually, do you know what? Like you said before, it's easy to go, do you know what? It was a coach's fault. But actually, somebody who has so much belief in you and wanting you to do well and knows that you can do well, you almost want to repay the faith in them.
Yeah, if you look, Norwich sold me for $6.5 million.
Yeah.
They would never have got that.
Yeah. Yeah.
If he wasn't as good as his job, and he didn't have that experience, they would never have got that, and I wouldn't have got my career. So incredible. But I also I see it now, and I deal with it now. I don't, I was a player, and I've been where they are, so I know. I know when someone's not putting. I know when someone wants to dive in for a tackle because he doesn't want to run.
Yeah.
I know when someone wants to claim because he doesn't want to try. I see all these traits. So I played everything you've tried. I've done worse. So I know all that.
Yeah.
But the fact for me, I have to get you into terms. It's the best thing for you. And I'll spend time on winning you over. And I will spend time. I will improve you. I guarantee you that. But you've got to want to improve. If you don't want to improve, then I'll find another angle.
Yeah.
And I get some angle. But the only problem I've only ever had a problem with two players. When you don't want to improve, you blame everyone else to take other players down with you. I won't accept that.
Yeah. I
will not accept. You are not, because that's how you want to go about it. I will not let you bring other players. And they didn't last long. One kid I didn't even coach.
Yeah.
I never had him one-on-one. Never coached him in one of my teams. And the one kid lasted 6 weeks. They were gone. Because, like I said, you're not going to influence or dictate to other players around you in their career down or stop them from having a career because you don't really want it. And they're the only two kids I ever had a problem with. And when you hear of, and it come out a year or so later when it wasn't them, it was their parents.
Yeah.
No problem. I can live with myself more than happy. Now, the one or two things I learned, and that's dealing with young players are really easy.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with, because I coach from 7, 8, 9s, 10s, that, brilliant age. Kids give you more enthusiasm, and you have a more enthusiasm to coach. It's best. You'll see traits, but if you could, I would say to any, I still do it now, just for my own enjoyment. Anyone gets, or thinking about going to coaching, go into young coaching, because you'll learn so much about players. You learn so much how you coach them, tone of voice. But when I went to 18s, then was like, well, you've left school. Now you're coming into the real world now.
Yeah.
So there has to be that discipline. When you do warm-ups, got to go around combs. Everything you do, no matter how basic or little you think they are, they add on to. They just add. You take shortcuts now, it will add on.
Yeah. And
you'll be taking shortcuts in training. You'll be taking shortcuts in games. So that will not happen. From every warm-up, everything we do, we go around everything, because those little details, they might be trivial, they might not, but they add on. So those little traits with 18s then was like, I let them be men. I let them, so if one swore at the other one, I let it happen.
Yeah.
I didn't, for me was like, yeah, look, they can go to movies, they're 18 years of age. They can go into the army, they're 18 years of age.
Yeah.
But what I didn't understand was then, is because I wasn't aware of it, that a part of coaching terms now with Premier League rules, FA rules, completely different.
Yeah. One
rule says this is acceptable, that's acceptable, that's acceptable. Then one rule says this is not acceptable, that's not acceptable. I ran off the Premier League rules.
Yeah.
Because I thought that was it. I didn't know about the FA rules. So in terms of, if I'm talking like this now and I use the odd language, that's not allowed.
Yeah.
You're not allowed. You get reprimanded, which I wasn't aware of. So one thing I didn't know was the parents were aware of everything.
Yeah.
They knew the rules better than I knew. So when they went right, because you've got rid of Johnny, it's after 6 weeks, they're the pitfalls you have to make sure you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be aware of issues, because believe me or not, these parents will know. They will know. When you release their boy and you broke their heart and his dream's over, by the way, you could go to another club, but if you're not good enough for yours, then he's not good enough for someone else's. Someone else is going to take the blame.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, then it was like, an FA course, nothing to do with the Premier League, because they agreed everything was accepted. That's not a problem. But this is so minimal. But you did use language, and you let them use language.
Yeah.
Now, said wasn't even brought to me. Everything now we're using language was, you're not allowed to do that. I have to hold my hands up. I didn't know. And I have to apologise for it. Problem with that. But these are things when you go into coaching with certain ages, like, with younger boys, 16s and younger, you never use language because you wouldn't expect a teacher to do it.
Yeah.
How do you do that from that transition to 18 to first team? Like, there's so many grey areas there, and the amount of coaches had companies in that it is huge.
Yeah.
The number, some people only years ago. There's been about 24 years.
Yeah.
But that is such a grey area. And I was either then, well, I either do young ones or I'm going higher. I can't. That movement there. And that's the only one I would say that's full with coaching.
Yeah.
It's just that bracket. That bracket transitioning from school to that bracket of coming into the real world. And that's the period I would like for every coach be very, very aware of it, because I wasn't aware. I wasn't aware of what you can say, what you can't say. They're coming into young men now.
Yeah.
Now, it was how I was treated, but it's different now. Now there's so many rules. There's child protection, which is great. There's loads of other brilliant practices that come there for the welfare of the player, which I completely agree with. But there's an element of what's real, what they should expect from this game, what really isn't, and what I think it's doing a little bit of a disservice, and it's not going to give them the opportunity, not just in football, but in life in general. And that's the only grey area I would say with coaching. From my experiences so far, that I would be very, very careful of. Make sure your eyes are open if you ever go into it, especially if you're an ex-player. Now, if you're not an ex-player, and I call them educated coaches, great. I have no problem. You don't have to play this game to know this game or to have good input in this game. But I would prefer, if I was going, they take care of that bit, because ex-players either too young, where you know your rules, or you go into 21s and you're above all that, and none of that can get pulled on you.
Yeah, of course. I think
you know the rules, because if you don't know the rules, the parents do.
It's true. The parents will find everything that they can in terms of, even just like I said, either like protecting their children, but also because they're almost involved in the football just as much, because they're going along with their child's journey along the year groups. And what I find so interesting as well, and do you know what is really is music to my ears, that you've coached at so many different age groups, because I think that's so crucial as a coach. There's a lot of coaches out there, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that they're not coaches, but as soon as a lot of people want to go into coaching, straight away, give me the senior team, give me the 18s, or give me the basically oldest age groups that they could possibly coach. And the reason why they want them is because they see them as almost the finished articles, and it's just, they already know how to play football, and I'll just put out a few like formations and stuff like that. But like you said, I love coaching the younger ones. I think, number one, a lot of people don't realise the foundation that you're putting into those individual players. And also the challenges as well. I mean, a lot of people, again, who have coached at really high age groups, like you said, knowing what to say and what to do, there's, people who might shout at their senior team. Then they go along to a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old group session, and you've got these children who are not listening to you, who some of them don't even really want to be there. It's their parents' choices. And they're like, I actually don't know how to deal with them. I don't know what to do. I can't shout at them. So how do I deal with this? So I think it's so important to have that sort of experience across all age groups, because like you said, you get an experience of it, you get an understanding of it. And I think, like you said, it's crucial, really.
You gain an empathy. You just, I get really protective of the players I have.
Yeah.
As long as you're giving everything, I have your back, and they know that.
Yeah.
And even the younger ones was like, just, it was like summer heart. where it was like, I've seen some situations where you just want to give the kid a hug. And, because, like I said, you have to deal with all sorts where you're not expected to, when you go into, one situation where the parents separated. Now this 7-year-old boy's training with us, lovely kid, top kid. But his father didn't get a chance to see him. So where's he think he can come and see him?
At the game.
Comes to the training.
Yeah.
You know? He knows his mum ain't going to be there, but the court restraining order that he can't see him. So you have to deal with these situations. You have to do, the parent up, and which he did turn up. And then I have to then go to the side and say, look, you can't be here. I don't want him to see. If he sees you, then he's going to tell his mum, and it's going to create more problems for you. And then he's telling me his situation, and I've got to delegate that. I've got to also be, what's the right word to use with it? But I've got to be sympathetic towards it as well.
Yeah.
I can't, and I think with a lot of life experience I've had, allows me to see that one. But also, advise with him, also explain to him what's good and what's better in the long run, instead of me going out there and demanding that he goes, and you shouldn't be, and treat a completely different scenario on you. And it could, and the biggest effect of it all is the child.
Yeah.
The child is the most important person in this. So I have to keep him clear, have to keep him unaware of what's happened. So you have to be aware of what's going on or what situations could arise. And I think that was one thing I learned about, and I do it now, even all the boys I have now, I try and know everyone's background. So we profile them.
Yeah.
So I know what they can take coaching-wise. Some would take a lot more. Some have to need explain in different ways. So you try and rule everything. So the ins and outs of every young kid, of what stimulates him, how's the best way to speak to him on this, what's the best way to show tactics on this, because he understands this, he understands that. But at the same time, with younger ones, it's more to do with their family situations, but also what could that child, like I said, if he comes in late, there's a reason why he's coming late. It's never the kid's fault, it's the parents' fault.
Yeah.
But I can't be critical of the parents, because she's got 2 other children she's had to try and get to school during that time. She's doing it on her own. So and the last kid needs is when he comes in, is someone to say, why are you late?
Yeah.
It's like, no, we forget about that. Don't worry about him being late. We smile at him. How are you? How was that sleep well last night? In you come and enjoy training. So you take the them straight away. And these are, bits I learned from, even with, be a lot more stricter. Now, you're responsible for getting yourself in on time. But things do happen.
Yeah.
A bus can break down. A train can break down. There can be situations. Now, you can't do anything about that. Now, instead of me saying, well, there's a rule, you're late and that's that. I don't care what happened. No, being sympathetic, saying, no, you're right. Don't worry about it. On you go. I think if I would have done the young players, I would have seen that as everything black and white, and that's that. But actually doing it learns you how to coach, learns you how to, learns players as well, more respect for you as well, because they see a human being as well.
Yeah.
He does see the real world, and he does see situations and certain circumstances can change.
Yeah.
And he's open to that as well.
Yeah, and I think as well, these are all the things that the coaching courses don't teach us, these, like you said, these real life scenarios. And I think that's why it's so important to go through life experiences. Like you said, you're traveling to different teams and playing in different areas, leaving home at a young age to go and pursue a career. You're coming up against barriers. These are the real things that almost helps you later on, like you said, within your coaching career, because they're the things. You've got the football inside, how to play football, you've worked under numerous managers, great managers, and you can implement those philosophies, if you want to call it that, or the technical points, but it's all those other parts which, are really what you learn as an individual or pick up from other people along the journey. But on that point as well, I was just going to say, obviously, like you said, you've worked under some unbelievable managers. Was there anything that you did take from them in terms of whether it be a footballing perspective or again, life skills really from them?
loads. Even the ones you didn't think were as good, you learned a lot from. So the experience, like say with Rafa Benitez, tactically, defensively, very, very good.
Yeah.
But I thought his attacking wasn't great. But for a defender, brilliant. His organisation of seeing the opposition threats was exceptional. So I watching and analysing the opposition. Where are they dangerous? Where's their weaknesses? So I picked up a lot from that. Who goes where? More of a defensive structure, because I know I'm an attacker, but I love defending.
Yeah.
You have to defend. It has to be, you have to be very good at it to be successful. But in ways he done it and ways he put it and filling in positions, I liked a lot. Now attacking wise, you can use, I've watched a lot, I've learned a lot from Vinny here as well. I tell you, I've learned a lot from, I don't like counterattacks.
Yeah.
How can we be on the attack and then the next minute we're having to defend our own area? Don't like it. Never comfortable with it. When you're on the attack, you're worrying. So learning from Vinny there and seeing what he does, because we all know where he got it from. It's like, now I know it. Now I can see why you can have more possession. Now I see why you stop counterattacks and teams can't get out. That gave me a new twist to it. And now I see other teams, what they're good at, how they don't get counterattacked because they're filling in positions, they're plugging the gaps. You see teams who are open, vulnerable to counterattack. Then you're like, yeah, these can be hurt. They're going to lose. So these aspects of it, give me a different range. But then the most influential one was Sir Bobby Robson. Brilliant, loved him at the time. But you really don't realise until you go into coaching how really good he was. Because the human being side, people say about tactics, and he wasn't that great at tactics, honestly. It wasn't anything that stood out, and I learned about this, I learned that. Other managers down the road, I did, and I've learned a lot, especially over the last few years. But his man management, so how he made you feel, the confidence he gave you, the way he spoke to you, the way he would treat tricky situations, how he dealt, was incredible. Now, he was, as a manager for discipline, was the strictest I've ever had. The strictest. He was, from the times you ate, he would tell you when to leave, once you've eaten, when you can leave, to the times you had to be in. He was strict about, but now I get why he was. Now I get those little disciplines, those little live with you. I remember once in there, I had a hat on. I don't even know why I had a hat on. I never really wore hats. Went to eat and he was like, take your hat off. And he was right. It was like, and even now I do it with, you don't eat with your hat on and say, what was your manners?
Yeah.
And even I remember someone had their foot on a chair, and you'd be like, he would stop his meeting, get your foot off the chair. You wouldn't do that in your own house. And actually someone replied, I do what I want in my own house. So, but he was just those little things he was, and it lives with me now. But his man management, to how to get the best out of people, how to, was just incredible. And I must use his man management nearly every day.
Wow.
Every day. That's how big of an effect he had.
Yeah, I think it's like you said as well, you don't realise these things until, potentially from a player's perspective, you're just, I suppose you're looking from the footballing things,
you just think you can have another one like him.
Yeah.
But also you think they're not going to be just like him.
Yeah. Or
another one's going to be again like him. There wasn't. There really, really wasn't. I remember once I got involved in a situation was to me. And during that situation, media got hold of it, and it's all over the. So I come into training, the manager's like, no, sorry, John Carver, great guy as well, John Carver, brilliant, I loved him. He comes and sees me, says, Bella's manager wants to see you. So I'm walking there, and I even worded to John Carver. I said, look, I've had a not. So do you know when you think you're going to go and see your manager, he's going to have a right go at me, and I'm not listening.
Yeah.
I'd have a go at him back, because don't forget, you know, I can run off from that time then. I mean, my motion state's going to be high.
Yeah.
So I'm also frustrated, and then you go into mode of, it's not my fault. It was someone else's fault. It was their blame. Why are you taking it out on me? And whatever I've got to say then will come out then in the manager's office.
Yeah.
So he goes, sit down, explain. So explain my version. And actually, it wasn't quite the version that happened. But I explained it.
Yeah.
He blamed everyone from me. They're this, they're that, they're out to get you, this, we love you. You okay for Saturday? He was, you know, he always makes Saturday. But he was just everyone. So he took the fuse completely out of me.
Yeah.
I didn't have, instead of going at me where I would have argued, one or two of us would have said words that we couldn't get back from, he diffused the complete situation to me walking out feeling guilty because actually I haven't properly told the story.
Yeah.
And here he is sticking up for me. I owe him more than anything. I better run hard. I better win the game Saturday for him.
Yeah.
You know? He knew the problem. He knew the situation, but he knew me.
Yeah.
What's the best way to diffuse this situation? Now, if he knew if it was a different player, he would have treated it differently.
Yeah.
But he knew the individuals. He knew the players. Like I had a player a couple of weeks ago here at Anderlecht. Now, a few players have been promoted, gone to the first team from the 21s, trained the first team. But there was a small group. He didn't get promoted, so we had to train the 18s because there was only 3 or 4, so they drop into the 18s. Now, he didn't want to train. He was like, I'm not training the 18s. Didn't tell me this. I'm up in my office. So physio comes up, says, look, we have a pain. He doesn't want to train. He's refusing to train. And I'm like, okay, training's in an hour. I'll sort it out. I leave it for about half hour, 40 minutes, 45 minutes. So I let it cool down.
Yeah.
Don't go down there head to head because he's already fronting up. So let him a little bit, let it rest. Then I go downstairs, I pull him in, say like, Halim, come outside, let's have a talk. Asked him what's happening. So he explained to me, I knew why he didn't want to train because he feels like he's not being respected, which I can understand, and I agreed with everything. And I said, I completely understand where you're coming from. Spoke even more and get everything he needed out. Agreed with everything, and then just said, look, we got 5 minutes. I need you to train.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, but coach. I said, no, listen, this is not about 18s or 21s. This is about you.
Yeah.
We need you to keep you fit. He suddenly turns into him of, oh no, I need to train to keep fit. Yeah. And it was like, instead of me going in, and it was like, you know how much I think of you. That's your chance. But if you don't train, then other people are going to say, and they get round that you haven't trained, you refuse to train, and they're going to think something of you that you're not that type of kid. Now you're frustrated. I completely agree with you. Completely agree. Every right to be frustrated. But do not let someone about you that you're not that type of person. Now go with the 18s, encourage, go there with as much enthusiasm as you can, and I'll see you in the next couple of days, you'll be training with the first team. If you don't do it, now why would they want you with the first team?
Yes, true.
They use it as an excuse to not put you in. So, boom, he goes in. 2 days later, he's training with the first team. But if he didn't,
yeah,
he wouldn't be back. They wouldn't have him back with the first team. But instead of me having a head-to-head, how dare you refuse? Who do you think you are? He ain't going to come back from that then. He's going to stick to it. Because he's made that decision. He's going to live or die by it because I know his personality. So I end up losing a player.
Yeah.
Instead of trying just to few, and that's, or like I said, that wasn't like, I knew what he was doing. And I would have reacted exactly the same as him. That would have been my fault. So I'm thinking, how do I diffuse that?
Yeah.
With emotion, the only way I can emotion is by bringing it all down. Bringing it all down.
It's interesting.
And it worked. So, like I said, you use it every day.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I guarantee you, he obviously probably thought even highly of you because of that exact reason. You know, you didn't go in there going to clash with him. He just probably thought, oh, he's listened. Like you said, like similar situation with you and Bobby as well. It's, you know, he listened, he's agreed. Like, oh, actually, yeah, the way you put your point across, it makes sense to me. Let me go out and let me give you what I need to do. Mainly in this sense, I thought it was for him. But then ultimately, like you said, what you said would happen did happen. So, you know, those things I think go a long way, and it's just really interesting to see.
Like I said, they're just things I just feel I was just really fortunate to have.
Yeah.
I was just so lucky to be around such good people, you know, and like Kenny Dalglish should be another, and Gordon Strachan as a coach. You know, there was just so many bits that I was able to pick up from a transition from a player to manager.
Yeah.
You know, I got to see Gary Speed do it.
Yeah.
And he was exceptional. He was just just exceptional. And that was the only time ever that it sort of gave me a little bit of a little thinking, do you know what? I'd like to do this. You know,
Yeah.
I'd like to go from coaching to from playing to being involved in coaching, because I seen his transition and how he done it and how human he was with it all.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to change. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be whack, you know, now don't talk to me, this. And, you know, like to some people, you're like, who is this person? He's not the same.
Yeah.
You know, I played with him. He was brilliant. But now he's a completely different person. And I seen that transition with him and how he can get it work, how he can get you seeing the game towards, put it into a way and put the practices into ways to make it easier for him to get his point across. And it was easy for him.
Yeah.
It was really easy for him, where we, as coaches, we all get this, you know, as part of our A licenses, absences. I was lucky to do in Wales really good. I had some incredible people on my pro license as well, which helped me very, very real lot. But we all get told this fear factor of, you know, you could get sacked in this amount of time, or be careful of this situation, or you don't want to. And everything's about the negative stuff. There's so many good parts of this.
Yeah.
You know, who's in fear of getting sacked? Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, what? It ain't going to stop me doing from. I ain't going to change my beliefs.
Yeah.
You know, this is what I believe. This is what I'm going to stick to. But I don't run in fear of that. That excites me even more. And with players, why can't you be human? Why can't you be good friends with them?
Yeah.
You know, like boys I released. Even a boy I released from here, Anderlecht, because you release just as long as you're straight with them. That's the light. That's the game.
The honesty. Yeah.
But he was around my apartment 2 weeks ago. He was like, I've released him a year ago, but he's around my apartment watching the game with me. You know, we speak all the time.
Yeah.
But that's the relationship you want. It's
I agree.
not, some of them find this distance of, no, you can't have that relationship with them. I don't get it. I honestly, you know, if I'm your closest friend, or if that means I can tell you a few untruths.
Yeah.
Because you know I'm doing it for you. Now, in order to do that, then why wouldn't you want to be? Because you know it's not personal. I'm doing it because I care about you.
Yeah.
And if I didn't say it, be worried. Because then you know I don't care about you, you know. And we don't have that relationship with each other. And even for things when it goes well, tell them.
Yeah.
You know, like I praise my time. Like yesterday, I stopped training 5 minutes early because it was that good. So, like, I don't need to train you anymore. You're that good. We walk off. We've done enough.
Yeah.
You know, and it just no problem.
It's interesting because
but if it isn't,
yeah, no, I was just going to say, it's interesting because it's true. Like, you know, a lot of the time, as coaches, they look at things negatively. Let's be honest, like you just said there about stopping a session. As a player, you're like, oh no, what have we done? What's he going to say here? Or, you know, what things do I need to improve on? But like you just said, actually stopping it and then saying, yeah, that's it, completed, sort of thing. You know, you've done what I needed you to do. From a player, you must get like such a buzz to be like, well, usually when the session's being stopped, it's, you know, I've done something wrong. So it's true. I think, you know, there needs to be a lot more positivity. And even like you said, the fear of like losing jobs and things. Well, you know, you'd never take a job in your life if you ever thought you might lose it or whatever. So yeah, it's like you said, it's, you know, people are involved in football because they love football. You know, like you said, your beliefs within your coaching and your way you want to do things, do it. I always say this to coaches. A lot of people will always see a session and they go, oh, I would do this and I would do that. Okay, that's fine. But as long as you have a reason and a purpose and an understanding of why you're doing that session, do it. You know, that's up to you, and that's the way that you want to. Well, it might be because of your players. It might be anything.
There is no such thing as the perfect session. Now, everyone outside will see something different. You could have done this, you could have done that. No problem. And even if you look back at it, you'll be saying, I could have done this, could have done that better, or maybe I could have put an extra ball here, or could have done that. But did the players understand what you were telling them?
Yeah.
Did they try and carry out what you were telling them? That's coaching.
Yeah.
That is it.
Yeah.
Whether or not we agree with the session or not, that is coaching. Did the players know what you were talking about? Did they try and execute what you were talking about? It's as simple as that. Now, you have a problem if they don't.
Yeah.
Then that's you. That's what you have to improve on. But long as they do that, no matter what we think and what we think was a bad session, as long as the players understand what you were trying to what you were trying to explain to them, as long as they try and carry it out then because they understood the exercise was there for them to try and execute it, that's a session.
Yeah.
That's coaching.
It's true. And it's so often people try and overcomplicate it.
You
like
shouldn't
you said,
do this, or you shouldn't put in there, listen, don't worry about that.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I think, like I said, that is, it sounds simple, and too many people try and overcomplicate it, but it's exactly what you said. It's, you know, and again, that's the other thing. The key word there being players. A lot of the time coaches are like, well, I'm going to do this because I like the idea of doing this, and I'm going to do this because I think it looks good. It's like you said, it's for the players, and it's the important thing is their development, and most importantly, their understanding as well. So, yeah, key points.
Always the most important.
Yeah.
Always.
But no, listen, Craig, been a fantastic insight into, you know, your journey and how you first of all got started into football. You know, taking us through sort of some of the experiences which you've came up against, and also in terms of the coaching world as well. Just kind of finishing off on that, I just want to like sort of tell the people who are listening and be watching this, how's it going over there with Anderlecht, and yeah, how's the project been going along there?
No, it's a great club. It's you're lucky. Like, we all know Anderlecht anyway. It's all right. We don't get to see the Belgian league, but we know the club. We know the history of the club, but we also has been aware of their youth products. You know, they produce players, and then to come and get the opportunity to come into, we were in the top 12 in the world last year of producing players, you know, and that's players have gone to other leagues as well. So once you've been involved in that, but also see the talent coming through. Now, we've been hit financially due to maybe misspending over the last few years. So the club has had to pull the strings quite a lot. Now, they went and got someone like Vincent, who's we all know Vincent Kompany, so and what his value is to Anderlecht, and what the club means to him, and that, you know, he means to the. But when you come into a situation like it was, if you didn't have the youth in place, it's a long road.
Yeah, it's
going to be a long road. But due to the youth, due to the talent that's coming through, it's a matter of time. It's a matter of time, because you just one after another. I don't know, honestly, and people keep asking me this, how can they keep having so many good? I don't know if it's incredible coaching from a young age, and it just keeps coming up, because I only get the finished bit. Yeah. I get the transferring. How do I get that talent then ready for the intensity of first team football? So it becomes seamless. It's just a natural progression. So I just get the final hurdle, all the work, the foundation work. I'm like, you know, the icing on the cake. The foundation's been put in through the whole academy through the years. But some of the talent we have is like, I'm not sure you can coach. That's the honest truth. quick, strong, see the game, see different formations. Tactically, they take things on board really, really quick. You just have to keep going more. Like I do, so playing out. I do, like we're going to 3-4 formations in a game. From the formation we build, compared to the middle of the pack, compared to the formation in the final third. We will change formations during that period.
Yeah.
But pressing, 3-4 different formations and pressing as well. So one game we're pressing because they play this way, we need to press this way. We're going to press that way. And because you work, especially after you find the solution to what will cause them the biggest problem on how they play.
Yeah.
But the main principles is we press high. That does not stop. We build from the back, and we control the counterattacks. There are 3 main principles. But the information you can give these players, they go with it. It's like give them more.
Yeah. Instead
of being stuck on one block and we can't quite get out of this and we're struggling with this is going to take a little bit longer than what I need. It's honestly, if you just go through it's like I'm having to pick it up and keep learning, keep going. Like I got like animations where like I've done about 28 animations. It's taken months, like it's horrible. But on different ways of playing out, different ways. So it's my own baby type of thing.
Yeah.
And different presses against different formations, different solutions for this, different problems this might cause. So you end up starting with 10, 15, adding more. Like 11, yesterday I added 11 to it. Just different ideas, and you move the animations and you save them more, and it comes under the philosophy. But these boys get you to that level.
Yeah.
Because they can take on so much tactically.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like we go with it. You know, if we need to change it, then boom, this is what we're doing. Because I'd only get about 2 days notice, or maybe that's if I'm lucky, but I might get about sometimes the day of the game of knowing what my team's going to be.
Yeah.
Because the first team, they might want 1 or 2 to drop back in, they might want 1 or 2 to be involved in the first team for that build up. So I lose players and really the same day, which is great for me because you have to be ready to coach there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like tomorrow, I don't know my group. I got a good core of my group, but I might get 1 or 2 more, I might get 1 or 2 less. You have to just learn. So with numbers, you have to be flexible very, very quickly. It's not a problem, even though we're all like a set number, but that's not the job you're in when you're doing 21s and 23s. But what I find with them is it doesn't matter which group you have.
Yeah.
They know.
Yeah.
They know because the work we do is so similar to the first team, because that's where the transitions are same. It's just an extended version of what they do anyway, or if they come back or they go up to the first team, they know what they're doing first team level. And it's the same with these, they know what they're doing. And I just find one part, I always said, I don't think players from European countries have more ability than you. You can't tell me they have more ability in your Lampards and your Scholes and all that. No chance.
Yeah.
But tactically, they're better. Tactically, they always get exposed to it a lot more. From a young age, they've been exposed to it a lot more. And that's, from coaching before to coaching now, the players here are far advanced. You can give them more. You can start seeing from the players to get certain things. They don't need telling. We've got so many players. You just tell once they get it. You got a few players too.
Yeah. But
you don't go into your threes and fours with the other group of players. So, look, you're a good coach if you have good players. Players make you a good coach. But at the same time, the aspect of learning, the will to want to improve, the will to drive in, is incredible here, which has just made me even better. It's pushed me onto a level that every day I'm learning off of.
Yeah. It's fantastic. I think it's like you said as well. I think it's such an incredible project there. I mean, again, you know, you obviously you said you've had experiences of coaching previously to this, but even going into something like this, and like you said, for players to push the coach to be creative, and like you said, the animations that you've done, and you know, there's some coaches will go in wherever they go. Right, this is my plan, and this is what I'm doing. I'm going to do this here. I'll do this at this club. I'll do this at this age group. I'll do this to this group of players, and you know, it doesn't work because, like you said, all players need different things. And I think, like you said, it's an incredible project and an opportunity as well where you are at the moment in terms of being able to work with those players, be responsible for, like you said, helping them with that transition. And like you said, also growing yourself even more as a coach as well. So,
yeah, no, it's and one thing with players as well, just a short one, is like ex-players coming in. Is planning and preparation. Ex-players support it.
Okay.
They don't plan ahead. They don't loads of good ideas because they've been coached well.
Yeah.
They got loads of good exercises, but putting it in paper, now it's all computerized, so we write all our sessions on a computer, and also being able to explain it, being able to then be out early, putting all the combs out, doing all that, has to be done. Where a lot of ex-players don't quite get to grasp of that. They will in the end.
Yeah.
But these are all things that, like even if you hear, you'll go on the weeks, you know, that's leading up to Christmas.
Okay.
So that's from pre-season to Christmas. So it's like, that's planning.
Planned ahead, yeah.
You know, that's like, that's about 25 weeks of planning.
That's true. So
and these are all things I did. But I didn't do. I didn't see it. I didn't. Now I understand what the coaches were doing before. But once you go from playing today, now you don't understand all that. But this takes time. Something that was straight away. You know, I got to terms with. It will eventually happen. Now a lot of ex scared off by all this. Feel like, oh well, what can I do? I ain't going to be able to do that, and ain't going to be able to do this. And listen. You will takes time. It just takes time. And what I would always say is an ex-player has to be followed by a coach who's a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe hasn't played the game, but he's been coaching, and you get the blend of the both. So we could have every club with one ex-player, one coach, who's brilliant at planning, brilliant at doing this. Then they both get... he experiences the player, he gets the feeling of the player, but also he gets the planning because those coaches then have been coaching for a longer time and planning, and they get to learn off each other. They get to bounce off each other. He gets to see what he's doing, and he gets to see what he's thinking, and you blend those both in. I think it's a great tool for, you know, if we could have that at every club, it'd be immense. You get the best out of both.
That's a good point to make. I think it's true. I think if you get that balance of the two, I've always kind of said that, you know, I get why ex-players go into coaching and the benefits that it brings, because, you know, if you're technically good and you have technical good understanding, and like you said, you've experienced these types of sessions off of previous managers or throughout the years, having the game understanding as well, or like you said, the planning and the organisation side, it makes for a good sort of marriage and merge of the two. So, brilliant
Definitely.
point. But yeah, like I said, I won't take up any more of your time, Craig. It's a fantastic insight into, like I said, your journey in terms of what you're doing now. It's really interesting as well to see, like I said, for me, the big takeaway point has been the coaching at different age groups and just how knowledgeable, and not even just in terms of the footballing side, but like you said, the life skills and able to deal with players. It's been fantastic to hear all of that and some of those experiences as well. Because I think that is such a big part of coaching. You know, it's not just always the football side. It's, like you said, the human side.
You're not there like the be all and end all to try and make you the best human being you can be.
Yeah.
That's the biggest gift or the biggest opportunity we have. It's not, you know, of course we want you all to become footballers, but we want you to be the best human being you can be. And if you do it, like the amount of players I speak to from Cardiff is huge.
Yeah.
I speak to them all. They played Belgium under 21s the other day, and I spoke to two of them after the game, just on the phone. And they always ring up for advice, always ring up, and I'd always have that relationship with them. Now, you're going to get one or two who don't. You're going to get one or two really, not like that. You can get burned and it can hurt you.
Yeah,
it can hurt you. But what you've got to understand as well is why did you get burned? Maybe I didn't do this correct, or maybe I didn't see this, or maybe I should have reacted in a different way. And sometimes maybe it's just completely out of your control.
Yeah.
But the simple fact is how many effects can you just give them a different insight into life that could help them be the person they can be? And that's really what any of us coaching wise, that's the biggest. That's the biggest tool we have. Also the best satisfaction we can get out of this. It's, of course, we want you to be a footballer. We do everything we can to improve you as a footballer and allow you to live your dream. But if you become a better person, you become a better boyfriend, husband, better father, and you look at things differently and it improves you there. Like Bobby Robson made me a better person. Maybe look at things differently. Maybe I didn't look at them right at that time, but it will sink in somewhere along the line when you're ready. And really, of everything, like I said, I can't tell you much about tactics with him, but I can tell you about the human.
Yeah.
And I still live off rules now, hats and all those type of things, even how to train and how I treat certain situations. If I could able once give that to someone, it's worth everything. That's why you do it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that's a massive point with it all. But no, listen, it's been a fantastic insight. I've taken away a lot from it in terms of just, like you said, intricate ways of dealing with people and dealing with factors. Even like I said, the planning behind you, it's good to see that there's just so much thought going behind stuff. And, you know, I think that's a big thing for coaches, that there needs to be not just your short-term plans of what you're doing on the night of the session, but your medium and your long-term. You know, how are you going to get to those long-term plans and ambitions, and how's the midway point? So are you going to change things? Are you going to adapt things because you might be progressing further on, or are you going to change things because maybe there's a bit over realistic of what you wanted to achieve? So yeah, no, fantastic insight. But Craig, like I said, I won't take up no more of your time. Really big thank you for you taking part in this. I know you don't have a lot of time in your hands, but to get you on here, really big for us. And like I said, fantastic insight into you and what you're doing now as well.
No, pleasure, mate. Honestly, pleasure. Like, sorry I didn't get back to you earlier.
No,
but, anyone knows me, yeah.
No, it's fantastic.
They would all say the same.
No, it's no problem at all. Like I said, really appreciate you having you on here and getting you to share your thoughts and views and opinions. So, like I said, appreciate it. But yeah, Craig, thank you very much, and hopefully people will take a lot away from this.